Please hang up and try again.
Freak Radio Network, broadcasting from the Lucas Oil Studios. Driven by General Tire. It's Speed Freaks. Motorsports Radio redefined with Kenny Sargent.
We love to party.
Crash Gladys.
What are we doing for the bachelorette party?
And Statman.
I am serious.
Here's the Freaks.
You know, there's a song out there, What a Strange Trip It's Been, or at least that's part of the song, Freak Nation. I don't even know if that's the name of the title, but it's already been a strange trip the first 6 days into 2023. And I'm still not used to saying 2023,
6
Freak
days,
Nation.
8 days, whatever we got going on here. Yeah, it's 2023. It'll be December 31st, 2023 before we're finally getting it right. So come on, let's just face facts.
All right. And we've got to, Statman, I see your graphic of Speed Freaks 22. We need to change all of our graphics going into 2023 because, damn it.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. We might as well put, 20 and 22 were special. If you're watching this on YouTube and on Facebook Live, 20 and 22 for Speed Freaks was very special. We weren't able to really celebrate our 20th year because COVID decided to come in and rear its freaking ugly head. So we said, let's take 21 off and then put 22 in there.
Okay, so let's make 22 the one. Let's just start now and make 25. Just put 25 up there because that's the next milestone. And let's just take 3 years to celebrate 25.
And I got that the one of the sweatshirts that you sent us. I was wearing it to lunch one day last summer, and 22. I looked at it and I said, "Well, this is dated." So, I mean, nobody's asked me what's the 22 mean, but you gotta be on top of it. 25 might be the best plan of all of them, Crash.
And it's seriously just around the corner. The way our first 22 and a half years have flown, 25 is going to be here before we know it. So, yeah, let's just get ready.
And I'm going to say this, Freak Nation. We didn't expect to be on at least the top of the show. We had a pre-tape or best of planned for the next 2 hours. We were going to come to you live again or for our first show in 2023 next weekend, post-2023 Chili Bowl. After the Tulsa Chili Bowl, the Lucas Oil Chili Bowl presented by our good friends at General Tire.
37th annual.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
Whoa.
Speaking of years.
But something happened over the last 10 days that we felt like we needed to spend at least the first 40 minutes of this show discussing, because a gentleman who has been a part of the Freak Nation, at least coming to the Freak Nation half a dozen times, and we've admired his work and his progression through the automotive and motorsports business almost as much as we've enjoyed recreating the madness that is Speed Freaks, and that's Ken Block. The passing of Ken Block hit all of us to where I was frankly in denial. The guy that's defied damn near as much as Travis Pastrana was killed in a snowmobile accident. And if there was anyone that's part of this show that could describe what Ken Block meant to the automotive and motorsports business better than Statman, I don't know who is. Statman, you've got a couple of minutes before we got to resume with our affiliates. And again, we'll reset it again. You got about a minute and a half to explain to the Freak Nation what Ken Block meant to motorsports.
The best thing about Ken Block is that motorsports is different. He changed everything. When he was in the World Rally Championship, Sebastian Loeb was in the middle of all of his 9 in a row, and he had maybe 10 times the followers, maybe 15 times the followers of Sebastian Loeb. The World Rally Championship turned to him and started to copy what he was doing. And all of motorsports did the same thing. I wish Americans could have been a little more aware of what he has done for motorsport, how sponsors interacted with motorsports, how motorsports presented itself to its audience, how motorsports decided what its audience was. I wish that we had a better understanding that Ken Block was more than just a crazy guy who liked to slide around in cars. It was, he created a series, the Gymkhana video series.
It's all right, Stat Man. Well, this is what we're going to do. It's tough to put Ken Block's career in about a 90-second soundbite, but let's do this. We're going to resume with our affiliates. By the way, Freak Nation, this is a big fat radio show for 22 years, and we decided to put on video. So we're going to resume with some of our affiliates and get right back into our discussion about the passing of Ken Block. Coming up, SpeedFreaks Pits, Lucas Oil Studios.
Speed Freaks, we promise to suck less. Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
The Freaks.
Bringing in another round of affiliates here in the Freak Nation. Speed Freaks on a Sunday night from the Lucas Oil Studios. Thank you, General Tires, for making this thing possible. Let me be the first freak to wish you a happy new year, Freak Nation. As I said at the top of the show, we intended to run a best of tonight, but the passing of Ken Block, indeed a motorsports legend in his frankly short life, his 55 years, passed away recently, and we felt that we owed it to Ken Block and those that weren't familiar with Ken Block. We owed it to you to spend the first 40 minutes at the top of the show talking about Ken Block. We've got a 2007 interview that we did with Ken Block, maybe our first interview that we did with him after he won the 100 Acre Wood Rally. I think that's the first time I ever heard of the 100 Acre Wood Rally from Ken Block and Statman.
No. Statman had been telling us about it for years, but this is the first time we did an interview from that rally. So yes.
And you never heard about Winnie the Pooh? That's right. Where the name came from. And that was the 100 Acre Wood was where Winnie the Pooh lived.
Well, just so you know, Raleigh, Winnie the Pooh, and Missouri. Now, those are three things that go. What's the joke? One thing doesn't belong with the other, or what is it, Crasher? What doesn't belong?
Which one of these is not like the other?
All three of them. Raleigh, Missouri, and Winnie the Pooh.
Okay, valid.
So can you give me that?
And Speed Freaks.
Yes. And Speed Freaks. And Statman so eloquently was trying to cram 55 years of Ken Block into about a 90-second soundbite. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a break here shortly and come back with our interview with Ken Block from 2007. I believe our first interview with him. He's been in the Freak Nation numerous times. There was one time we were trying to fill a seat, an interview seat. Statman sent Ken Block a text or called him and said, dude, can you be on at 7:20? Bam.
He was on.
Ken Block was calling in from some shop. Statman's done that with Travis Pastrana. Travis Pastrana was in a car traveling somewhere. And these guys that, again, are bigger than most motorsport stars on the planet, drop whatever they're doing to come to the Freak Nation. And we owe it to Statman and his relationship with Raleigh. We'll be back with more Speed Freaks.
Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
It's more than just a slogan. General Tire delivers for whatever you do. General Tire's Grabber X3 mud terrain tire offers aggressive styling and is engineered for durability with innovative performance features that are ready to carry you through extreme mud, dirt, and rock-covered terrain. For extreme traction that's ready for anything and rugged styling to match, look no further than the Grabber X3. General Tire delivers for whatever you do. Check out GeneralTire.com today. General Tire, aggressively styling the Speed Freaks since 2001.
Hey, Dad, what are you going to buy at the store today?
I'm out of Lucas Oil fuel treatment, so let's jump in here and grab us some.
Well, do they have the Lucas Oil parts cleaner and degreaser?
I bet they do.
Well, how about the Lucas Oil power steering fluid?
You know, they'll have that too.
Even the octane booster?
I won't be surprised if they do.
My favorite red and tacky grease?
Yes, they will, babe.
Dad, when we're done, can we grab some candy?
Deal, but you gotta share.
Awesome! Lucas works.
It's edgy and downright offensive at times.
So he wins my What an Idiot for the month of July.
See the world of NASCAR through their eyes.
Hey, it's TJ, Brett, and Freddie.
Superstar guests and plenty of hot takes.
And we are door bumper clear.
NASCAR hits MAB TV with Door Bumper Clear. Only on MAB TV, Motorsports Network.
You're listening to Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio Redefined.
Thank you, Lucas Oil, for making this thing possible. Go to lucasoil.com. That's lucasoil.com, a great website to check out to find the products to keep all of your rides, two-wheel to four-wheel, keep all of your rides fat and happy. Inside your engine, outside your engine, inside your car, outside your car. Go to lucasoil.com. As I said at the top of the show, we intended for this show to be a best of. The majority of it is going to be a best of Speed Freaks over the last year. Well, I say the last of 2022. But with the passing of motorsports automotive legend Ken Block at a young age of 55 years old from a snowmobile accident recently, we felt that we needed to discuss really what he meant to motorsports and how he affected motorsports. We're going to relive a 2007, almost 16 years ago, interview with Ken Block.
And you think this is our first interview that we did with him?
It sure, yes, it sure sounds like it.
Well, then that just makes it even more special.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it.
And Statman, if this is from 2007 and we're just getting to know Ken Block around that time, or at least Kenny and myself were, would you say that, was this before he went into World Rally? Because he was doing the American Rallycross, right? Was this before he went to World Rally?
Yeah. The great thing, Kenny and I have laughed about this. We all had I'm going to take a minute here. We have a tape recorder that if you don't hit it right, it's not going to record properly. And I had on the side of some road somewhere, I don't know where it was, we had a spectacular conversation laughing about family and comparing notes. He's the father of daughters. I'm the father of a daughter. I think this
about you and Ken Block.
This was before Hindley, so Kenny wasn't the father of a daughter yet. But it was a great conversation. I happened to glance down at the recorder, and it was still flashing at me, the red light. It wasn't recording. And I had hit it wrong, and it never started recording. And I just, after 10 minutes, I just said, Ken, we got to stop. I screwed up, and with all of that. And he looked at me with a serious face, and he said, I thought I was working with a pro. that has never left me. Whenever I put the recorder in a drawer now, I don't even use it. But yeah, I mean, it just, that one line. And he looked at me, and I felt about that small, I said, I thought I was working with a pro. And yeah. And one of the first conversations I had with him, I remember this in Oregon. He told me the story that he was still kind of associated with DC Shoes, where the company he helped found. And he was telling me that some of the guys that he sponsored in the skateboarding world who were going into X Games, that they were against him going to the X Games because they were afraid that he would get a medal before they did. So they were rooting against him because they didn't want him to get a medal before they did. He said, he's just a great guy to sit down and have a conversation with, and to let him reveal who he is beyond the sliding and the smoke and all the other stuff.
Well, could you reset? It was a few minutes ago, so I would love it if you could reset what you said so incredibly about Ken Block, and to reset the whole moment of why we are coming on for a live segment for this show, and we are all still on winter break. Motorsports has taken a massive hit over the last 30 days. We've lost 6 people, and I guess you could say, Okay, maybe Ken Block is the biggest. Ken Block was the biggest innovator and arguably just a man of so many talents. And we are coming on specifically to honor Ken Block because it was just a couple of days ago that we lost him.
January 2nd.
January 2nd, yes. Robbie Pierce, off-roader, also part owner of Mastercraft Safety, Impact Safety. We lost him the very next day. Another stunning photographer. We lost then the very next day. It's been a tough 30 days for motorsports, but let's go back to Ken Block. I really would love to hear again your summary of Ken Block and what he meant to this world that we work in.
Statman, start from the point where he started to make his mark with DC shoes.
He started. That's why the importance of DC shoes is why he always has 43 on the side of his car, because D is the fourth letter of the alphabet and C is the third letter of the alphabet. And that has that importance to him. I mean, there may not have been a Ken Block if there wasn't for DC shoes. He went to school to study graphic design and so forth. So yes, that DC shoes was his baby. It made him extremely wealthy, and it allowed him to really pursue his passion in motorsports. He grew up watching the Group B cars in the World Rally Championship, and that's what he wanted to do. And very few people get a chance to live their dream. Ken got a chance to live his dream, and in so doing, completely changed the world of motorsports marketing. Before there were docuseries about Formula One, before there were docuseries in IndyCar, whatever it ends up being, before there were docuseries in NASCAR, there was Gymkhana. And Ken was so clear in his vision of Gymkhana that he went to Subaru, who was a sponsor at the time, and a tire company that was a sponsor at the time, and said, I want to do this video at an abandoned Air Force base in Southern California. And they didn't understand. They said, well, what is it, a commercial? Is it a film? And he said, no, it's this video to take advantage of social media. And they said, well, we don't want to do that. Now, thankfully, it was Ken Block and not me who said, you don't want to do it? Screw you. I'll find somebody else to do it. He went and used the Subaru and used their tires, put their name on the car, and he went out and did Gymkhana 1. And he had, in the first week, he had 9 million views on YouTube. Nobody had done that. And it, boom, changed the way marketing is done in motorsports. And now some companies will get involved in motorsports if you have a large social media presence, because you can get more people watching your social media presentation than you can if you were on network television. So yes, he changed the entire way motorsports is presented to people. He changed the way people think about motorsports. I asked him once at a drift event in Long Beach, why aren't you out there? He said, that doesn't interest me. The competition wasn't what he wanted to do. He wanted to compete against himself and make the cars do things that nobody has seen before. And he did that and did it as well or better than anyone has ever done it. And he will be the yardstick that people use going into the future.
That's fascinating to me that you say, and it's absolutely true. Social media marketing changed in sports. I'm going to go beyond just motorsports because of Ken Block. Yep. That's amazing.
And he pulled all this off. And this is the thing that people don't understand about Ken. He is an incredible father. He loves his family more. He takes his family. Now his wife and one of his daughters is involved in the motorsports world that he's involved in. They race with him on some of the roads in the American Rally Championship. So, yes, he's an incredible father. I've seen him stop a debrief with his crew chief at a rally that he had just taken over the leadership in, going into the final leg of stages. Stop, pick up his daughter, interact with her hold his daughter for the rest of the debrief. And the daughter sat there and said, yeah, this is my dad. And if you don't like it, that deal with me, not just him. He changed the paradigm. He changed the yardstick for people in motorsports.
Again, Ken Block passed away 55 years ago, January.
No, 55 years old.
55 years old, excuse me. 55 years old. And according to National Public Radio, this was the release that came after the notification of his death. Hoonigan first announced his death on social media. The Wabash County Sheriff's Office later confirmed that Block was riding a snowmobile near his home in Utah around 2 p.m. He tried to navigate a steep slope, causing the snowmobile to fall back on top of him. Officials pronounced him dead at the scene on January 2nd. But we're trying to bring some positivity to what Ken Block meant to I say automotive, and that's not a far reach. What he meant to automotive, just a visionary, an icon. You heard Statman talk about it. And when we had him on, what I think was the first time in 2007 on our radio show, we were probably on 50, 60 stations at the time. I frankly had no idea who Ken Block was. Not when we had him on, but prior to that, until when Statman introduced me to more rally than I had ever consumed in my 40 plus years of being on this planet. So when we had Ken Block on, it was somewhat of a unique experience for all of us, frankly, not realizing the importance of what Ken Block meant to shoes, but to the automotive side. And he grew to be this incredible figure that anybody that's touched automotive and motorsports knows of Ken Block. So I want
to read something real quick before we get to our first interview with Ken Block.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we would not know Ari Vatanen had it not been for Statman. Mm-hmm. When we were helping the Dakar Rally kickoff in between 2004 and 2005, and we met Ari Vatanen in Barcelona outside an elevator. It was just, we've had some incredible moments because of Statman, but Ari Vatanen, I think, summed things up so greatly and so succinctly on his Facebook page. So I'm just going to read this. He said, Ken, quote, "Go fast, risk everything," unquote, was your slogan. There's no progress in life without risks. You pushed the limits to the heights nobody imagined. Gravity did not seem to hold you down. You showed us that impossible is possible. You changed the car culture. You gave us wings for our dreams. You left a trace in our hearts. You did it with a smile. Thank you, Ken. You are now in the eternal light. I think that's pretty freaking cool. Thank you, Ari Vatanen.
30 seconds. Ari Vatanen.
Vatanen, a world champion in rallying, going up the hill at Pikes Peak, and part of the European Parliament. What can I say?
Boom.
Freak Nation 2007 with Ken Block after he won the 100 Acre Wood Rally. And again, pardon our interviewing skills for this.
2007.
Now in the Speed Freaks pits, we go to Cup to some guys running in the woods. Would you please welcome 100 Acre Wood Rally winner? Met this guy at Anaheim for one of the Supercrosses with Statman. Your winner from the 100 Acre Wood Rally, Ken Block. What's up there, KB?
Just trying to survive some bad flights and lost luggage tonight. Not too much fun, but had a good weekend.
Hey, Ken, how many radio stations or TV stations are calling you up to spend 5-10 minutes on the radio show to talk about what happened in the 100 acres?
Oh, hundreds.
I would think so. Well, when you talk about Statman was out there and you talk about running rallies in Missouri, sometimes those words just don't mix unless you're chasing moonshine through some of the hills of Missouri and so forth. Was running this race similar to what, let's say, people that are familiar with rallies, whether it's the Rim of the World or up in Portland, was it similar to that?
Yeah, it's actually incredible roads out there. It's my favorite event. I've won it 2 years in a row. So, it's the middle of nowhere. Obviously, that's where rally sometimes fits the best. And I, had a good time.
Hey, Ken, this is Crash Gladys, and I have to ask you where you guys were in Missouri. I think it was Salem. There was a no open container law, so you could not spray champagne on the podium. You actually had to spray apple juice.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I mean, they still believe in smoking inside restaurants, but you can't have an open champagne bottle when you win a race on the street.
Oh, not fair. Could you at least drink champagne in your own hospitality afterward?
Of course.
Oh. No. I got no way. Wait a minute. This is lug nuts. Are you saying telling us that if you would have cracked open a bottle of like the most rancid cold duck and just sprayed it all over, they would have given you a ticket or arrested you?
Well, potentially, yes. So, apparently the organizers weren't willing to have us arrested, so they gave us non-alcoholic sparkling cider.
So, Ken Block, you smoked everybody in the woods in Missouri this week.
Smoking is allowed, by the way.
Smoking is allowed, yeah. But what you also did, you smoked everybody when you took your rally car and jumped at 171 feet, a world record for a rally car jump.
Yeah, well, it's not officially. I guess it's officially the recorded world record, but there's a couple guys that there's actually video evidence of that have jumped a little bit further in actual rallies. My goal wasn't actually to make a world record. I was actually trying to just see how big we could actually jump a rally car, because I grew up riding and racing dirt bikes just at an amateur level, so I've always really enjoyed jumping my dirt bike, and I just wanted to sort of apply the angles and dimensions from a dirt bike jump and actually do it with a rally car.
Is there really any comparison?
It is somewhat. Like we just can't do it as steep. I had to do some lower angles than what like a Supercross triple would be. But yeah, I mean, the biggest I'd ever jumped my dirt bike was like 120 feet. So I ended up, jumping a lot further in my car. But it worked. The physical calculations worked out the same as what you do with a dirt bike.
Ken Block, 100-acre Wood Rally winner here in the Speed Freaks pits. Go ahead, Lug.
When you started to mention Supercross triple and stuff, I can't help think you maybe got that little reference there from a guy who's coming into your sport that is going to help bring a whole lot of new viewers to it. I'm talking about Travis Pastrana.
Brilliant! Oh, yeah. I mean, Travis is a big influence on what we do with the team and with my company, DC, and he's a great teammate, and it was a great pleasure racing with him and having him a little frustrated this past weekend. He usually has me frustrated, so it was kind of good to have the tables turned this weekend.
Now, there's also something that's coming up. Is it next week or the week after, where you and Travis had your cars from Mexico there in Missouri, and you're going to the World Rally Production World Rally Championship event in Mexico. Is it next weekend, the weekend after?
It's actually the weekend after. We go down there this weekend to do some testing and recce and get ready for it, but it starts a week from this Friday.
So the one crazy thing, you mentioned DC Shoes. You're one of the founders of DC Shoes, and you are working with a lot of the athletes at DC Shoes sponsors. And we had a little conversation this week that the details of which we'll ignore. But you told me an interesting story about one of the guys that you sponsor told you that he wouldn't speak to you if you got an X Games medal before him, and then you went out and did that at the X Games last summer. You got a bronze medal in rally car.
Yep. Hey, that was one of the better moments of my life, actually going from the guy behind the scenes to actually being in a competition like that, such as the X Games. And yeah, that was my buddy Jason Ellis that skated for us for a long time, and he was just so pissed that I was actually going to be in the X Games and potential to medal. He just said, "No way! If you do this, I'm not speaking to you." So I think that lasted for 2 or 3 months where he just wouldn't talk to me. But we're back to being friends now.
Ken Block, where can more people find out about this rally and rallies coming up here in North America?
That would be rallyamerica.com. Rally America is the sanctioning body for the series here in America.
See, any way the Freak Nation can pimp it, that's what we're talking about, Blocky.
Excellent. Just go to Ken's website, ken-block.com. You've got some good photos on there and some good bio and all that.
Yeah, and there's a little video from that Stunt Junkies jump, too.
Nice.
Stunt Junkies.
Ken Block looking for his luggage. KB, thanks for coming to the Freak Nation, buddy.
Yeah, appreciate the call.
Hope you find your luggage.
See you, man.
Thanks. Bye.
Wow. Thank goodness we've grown up.
Blocky.
Yeah. Did you call him Blocky with his permission?
Hey. Whoa.
But that's cool. What do you say with Jason Ellis? Yeah. Statman, you were just referring to that a few minutes ago. So
we talked about it before maybe months before. I remember talking to him was in a trailer in Oregon where we talked about that. So yeah, I mean, it just, I don't know, Ken changed the paradigm, and it'll not be the same. And if you try to do it the way it was done before Ken came on the scene, if you try to do that now, you're going to lose dramatically.
Ken Block, 55 years young, gone.
I've been doing this a long time, more than 23 years in Speed Freaks and more than 50 years in motorsports in general. Lost a lot of people in that time, friends, people I've admired, people I looked up to. But losing Ken Block this week is something that's going to hit me, or has hit me, a little differently. He checked a lot of boxes. To show you how important he was in the World Rally Championship, where he raced a couple of years, they're going to retire his 43 number for this season, for the 2023 season. That's how much people looked up to him. He changed the paradigm in motorsports, and you can't ask for anything different than that when you change the world that you moved in. But Ken was bigger than that. We once had a conversation about family and daughters and so forth. He told me that when he looked in the mirror, he saw more than the businessman. He saw more than the husband, and he saw all of it. And a lot of people in motorsports can't say that. They're drivers, they're promoters. They don't make room for family. And Ken, that wasn't Ken Block. Ken Block made room for family, and maybe that was his success in the bigger picture. We're going to miss Ken. I'm going to miss picking up the phone and calling him and talking to him. I'm going to miss the fact that he's out there changing the sport that I'm involved in. Miss you, partner. Peace.
Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
Hey, Dad, what are you going to buy at the store today?
Well, I'm out of Lucas Oil fuel treatment, so let's jump in here and grab us some.
Well, do they have the Lucas Oil parts cleaner and degreaser?
I bet they do.
Well, how about the Lucas Oil power steering fluid?
You know, they'll have that too.
Even the octane booster?
I won't be surprised if they do.
My favorite red and tacky grease?
Yes, they will, babe.
Dad, when we're done, can we grab some candy?
Deal, but you gotta share.
Awesome! Lucas works.
It's more than just a slogan. General Tire delivers for whatever you do. General Tire's Grabber X3 mud terrain tire offers aggressive styling and is engineered for durability with innovative performance features that are ready to carry you through extreme mud, dirt, and rock-covered terrain. For extreme traction that's ready for anything and rugged styling to match, look no further than the Grabber X3. General Tire delivers for whatever you do. Check out GeneralTire.com today. General Tire, aggressively styling the Speed Freaks since 2001.
It's edgy and downright offensive at times.
So he wins my What an Idiot for the month of July.
See the world of NASCAR through their eyes.
Hey, it's TJ,
Brett,
and Freddie.
Superstar guests and plenty of hot takes.
And we are door bumper clear.
NASCAR hits Mab TV with door bumper clear. Only on Mab TV, Motorsports Network.
You're listening to Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
Freak Nation, it's a new year. Why not start out on a new set of General Tires? Pickup truck, SUV, minivan, I don't care what you got, man. General Tire has the tire for your ride. Go to speedfreaks.tv, hit the General Tire link and logo, and bam, it'll take you right to the website. Go to generaltire.com. We got about 2.5, 3 minutes here. before we got to go to break. And real quick, Freak Nation, we didn't intend to do we intended for this entire show to be a best of and come back to you live next weekend, but we felt we owed it to Ken Block and his legacy, at least for the first 40 minutes. We'll get back into our best of coming up. And I think,
hold on a second. We owe it to the whole motorsports community. Like I said earlier, it's been a very tough 30 days. It's been a tough month. We've lost 5 or 6 people, and they've all been amazing influences on the sport, starting off with Greg Cazzo with Lucas Oil and Mav TV, always the brightest light in the room. Andy Halberry, who wrote for Racer Magazine, Autosport, just an incredible man with so many stories in motorsport. And then Ken Block just completely shocked us on January 2nd. All these guys shocked us. The day after Ken Block, off-roading driver and co-owner with Impact Safety and Mastercraft Safety, Robbie Pierce, then lost his life in a surfing accident. And then the day after that, scuba, not surfing. Then the day after that, if you've been at a racetrack, you've seen photographer Andrew Wheeler. He's been everywhere, and another bright light in a room. So yeah, suffice it to say, it's been an incredibly difficult month for everybody in motorsports. Legends in their own right, all of these men, and it's going to be tough starting 2023 without all of them. And
Statman, needless to say, doing this show for 22 and a half years, wow, the cats who have come and gone that we've admired before and during SpeedFreaks, Ken Block sits right up there at the top with some of the others.
Yeah, it was hard. Ken was always made himself available, and there are champions who don't do that and get in their own cloistered in their own caves and never come out. But that wasn't Ken, and that was part of his legacy, that he changed the way it's done. You can't do anything more than change the world that you step into.
Wow. Well said.
Yep.
Can't do anything more than that.
There was something Statman hit. We don't have time to get into it, but I want to pay attention to this, at least next show or one of our upcoming shows, when Statman brought up Ken Block stopping an interview with his daughter. I know.
All dads can relate.
We've come so far as media people to allow our family to become part of what we do when we've suppressed it for so many years.
We've talked about this. Like I said, we're both dads with daughters.
Yep.
And he talked about this. His family was so important. I've been in hotels where you get up at 6 a.m. to go get to some rally point somewhere, and he's working with his trainer in the fitness center at the hotel. That he was just a different kind of man, and that speaks to the success that he had in his life.
So make a point, guys. I want to spend a segment, if I can get through it, of how we've allowed our family to become part of what we do. I don't care if it's football, the NBA, billiards, SpeedFreaks. As you've seen in some of these shows where our daughter will crawl in behind us on some of these videos, we've shunned family not shunned, but just put them aside.
There's a lot of things where we have to say, just a minute, please. Yeah.
It's awesome to see us come so far as just humanity. We have a family. Jesus, we can't be so freaking stoic and have all the right words at all the right times. Man, woo, tough one.
Yeah,
tough one. Freak Nation, we're going to get back to our best stuff coming up next. And again, we're in 2023. We'll be back live coming up next week after the Lucas Oil Chili Bowl presented by our good friends at General Tire.
SpeedFreaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
Lucas Oil, it works.
I run Lucas Oil.
It doesn't matter if you're on the water,
driving to work,
or competing in a sold-out stadium.
Lucas Oil products will help you get the most out of your vehicle.
Monster Jam has run Lucas Oil in and on our trucks for over 10 years.
We wouldn't run anything else.
Lucas Oil, the official oil of Monster Jam.
General Tire was born more than 100 years ago, right here in America. We've spent the last century tackling every kind of road this country has to offer, and especially the places without roads. So you know that with General Tire, anywhere is possible.
It's edgy and downright offensive at times.
So he wins my What an Idiot for the month of July.
See the world of NASCAR through their eyes.
Hey, it's TJ,
Brett,
and Freddie.
Superstar guests and plenty of hot takes.
And we are door bumper clear.
NASCAR hits Mab TV with Door Bumper Clear. Only on Mab TV, Motorsports Network.
Freak Nation, Lucas Oil Studios, 22 years of doing this thing, and this is the first time Ryan Preece has joined us here in the Freak Nation, and it takes Ryan Preece joining up with a Freak Nation fave, Tony Stewart, Stewart Haas Racing, for the Cup season and number 41 next year for 2023. And Preece, so much to your backstory, man, is bonkers. We had no idea that you were in the simulator 24/7 helping out other Stewart Haas Racing drivers. We know of your tenure in Xfinity Series, the Truck Series, some Cup races. How did this come about? Were you kicking ass on the sim and they said, man, we got to get your ass in the 41?
Man, I did a great job. I smoked everybody in the simulator. You wouldn't even believe it. But no, to be honest with you, that was part of it. That was kind of getting my foot in the door. But believe it or not, I feel like I'm pretty good at real life racing. You know, when it comes to whether it comes to Xfinity cars, trucks, modifieds, late models, whatever it may be, I've been successful at it. So, but yeah, mainly this year, I gotta say I have a lot of experience in the simulator.
Ryan Preece joining us here in the Freak Nation. In case you haven't seen it or heard about it, Freak Nation, he's taken over the 41 from Cole Custer in the Cup Series with Stewart Haas Racing, joining us here in the Freak Nation. Did you have an inclination a couple of months, a month ago, a week ago, that this was going to happen? And was that the whole reason why you spent so much time in the sim, was to prove your wares that you deserve a Cup ride, Ryan?
Well, it all started, I didn't have any idea of what my career path was going to be after November of last year. You know, I ran full time for JTG for 3 years, and we were parting away. They were shutting down the 37, and there was other opportunities to go out there and be a part of the show, but my goal as a race car driver is to win races and to put myself in the best position to do that. So wasn't really sure, and the opportunity came about to run part-time in Xfinity Truck Cup, and as well as do simulator work for SHR and Ford Performance. So I took that opportunity and continued to do that throughout the year. We did win at Nashville, but man, to be honest with you, I really didn't know if this was all really going to happen. I mean, really, until I signed the contract last night, or even this morning, to be honest with you. So it was a very, very sudden thing, and things moved really quickly. But I'm thankful to have guys like Tony and Kevin and you know, believe it or not, Greg Zipadelli, who runs basically the show for them. He's from Berlin, Connecticut, and so am I. There's a lot of things that we can talk about from a local standpoint, and I have a lot of respect for everybody at SHR. It's a race team full of racers, and I've been lucky enough to already been a part of the process and been around the shop for the past year and gotten to know a lot of those guys. And one of those guys happens to be a local modified legend, Reggie Ruggiero. He's a really good fabricator himself, and you know, he was just telling me he's pretty much keeping me level.
Oh,
you know, you got to love it when people try to call you, but yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's been a lot. It's been great to be a part of so far.
Ryan, in your role, of course, Ryan Preece, newly minted in the number 41 for the 2023 Cup season with Stewart Haas Racing. In your role this past year, who did you have the greatest communication with? Because what you were doing was crucial to what the guys would then experience on the track. And when they would have issues, as we saw with Kevin Harvick and some of the other guys, then it would come back to you to help them in alleviate some of those problems. I mean, you could only go so far as the alleviations, but who was the best person that you could communicate with in order to keep everything on track for Stewart-Haas this year?
Yeah, so Kevin's somebody that I've had that relationship with, and there was a team that was pretty much dedicated to the simulator, so there was a lot of communication from there, and we were also, or I was all, our team was a part of those conversations every week on Tuesdays post race. How off could the simulator be? What could be better? Kind of trending in those areas, so we can go to work on that. And I felt like there was a lot of things, a lot of parts and pieces that go into the sim work, like tire modeling or aero model, and different like a variety of choices for them. And we started narrowing in on what seemed to be the best, and we just worked on that throughout the year and got it closer and closer each and every week.
Do you think, Ryan, that because of being so micro-focused on this next-gen car this past year, that you have a leg up versus any other Cup opportunities you've had in the past? You have a leg up now in 2023?
Well, I definitely think there's a lot to talk about when it comes to tools as a race car driver. And one of those tools is having the support from an OEM like Ford and having the ability to go to the simulator or be, all the tools that I've seen that I've been around this past year have just allowed me to do what I feel is a better job as a race car driver. And so, yeah, I feel like I definitely have a leg up going into next year.
Wow. Ryan Preece, you see that blue oval on his shirt? He's going to Stewart-Haas Racing, the number 41. Just signed the contract early this morning, late last night, whenever it was. Ryan, you worked a lot on the simulator like we've been talking about. What'd you find out about this next-gen car that solves some of the problems that everybody else has been complaining about?
Well, we're continuing to work through those things, but what I will say to you is that the old cars used to be on the ground. They were on the earth. We're talking thousands of an inch off the ground, where now we have rub blocks, we have shock limiters that only allow us to travel so far. And when you're going 180 miles an hour and your car's still basically like an inch off the ground, it just creates a whole lot of different handling issues. And so we're just working through some of those things.
Wow. You stopped right there, dude. You must have gotten charged. So you were on the way to giving us too much information.
Yeah.
I'll let you get away with that. That's fine.
You like how I cut it right there?
Yeah, man.
You know what? The racer in me, I like to get into a lot of depth and of those things, but I also understand you got to withhold some things, right? I'll keep you guys wondering.
Ryan, that's more than fair, partner. I was just wondering how long you were going to go on this off ramp if we were going to get down to the stop sign, and evidently we did.
We hit it hard.
Yeah,
just like when my wife is driving, when she's getting to a stop sign, she doesn't gradually hit the brake pedal; she slams on it. And I'm wondering if we're just going to go through it or not. It's kind of a guessing game every time we go to a stop sign.
Let me ask you a different question altogether. You'd had some experience in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Series. I went through a period of time when I thought about maybe getting a modified car, and then I took 2 aspirin and slept it off. What is it about the Modified Series that a lot of drivers go through it and they like it, and it's the destination series for some pretty good drivers?
Yeah, so it's just, I'm from Connecticut, and the Whelen Modified Tour is based out of New England and the East Coast. So it was just Stafford Motor Speedway, Thompson Speedway, Riverhead, all places where I'm a champion. They were all within an hour and a half of my house. So it was just convenience more than anything. And I mean, when you look at a modified, it's just a badass race car. So, I mean, why wouldn't you want to drive it?
Yeah, exactly. I have a cousin who does television work for Stafford and Thompson. He talks about going there all the time. I don't know if you know Mark Chavis, but yeah, I mean, he's done a lot, and he's talked about a lot of drivers there and the success they've had and how much he loves it. The modifieds, the super modifieds in particular in New England, they have the floppy wing, an arrow wing. That is, I love those cars. It's stunning. It's like stupid how fast they are. Did you ever drive one of those?
I actually have. I did drive. I practiced a super modified one time, and man, it was it's one of those race cars, kind of similar to what they say when a USAC midget is really hooked up. When the right front is hiking the wheel off the ground down the straightaway, that's what that was doing in that super mod. So it was a little different, but man, they are fast.
Yeah, and there's no sim for those, is there? I mean, especially with the engine flopped over and you sit straddling the drive shaft almost. It's an incredible car.
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't think I could duplicate something like that. But I would imagine if you were going to do something crazy, it would have to be like some old school go-kart where your head used to stick out. Then you'd have to put some sort of wing on top of it, because that's what it would feel like.
Just get the goddamn dryer and let the dryer roll you around a few times, Priest.
Oh.
Yeah, we could do that too.
Right?
That would be right. Yeah.
Ryan Priest taking over that 41 for Stewart Haas Racing in 2023. You brought up Stafford. You brought up your wife. And earlier in this interview, you said, when we were talking about the sim, of course, you said, I'm a pretty damn good race car driver. A regular race car driver too. Would your wife say that? I want to know how competitive you guys are. You met at Stafford. You raced against each other. Would she say the same thing?
Yeah, you definitely did your research here, because this is a question that I don't get asked often, but when I do, she's very competitive. And I actually raced against her. She was the rookie of the year in the modifieds, and there was a few arguments on the way home, but I'm going to speak for her, and I think she'd say I'm a pretty good race car driver.
Can you turn the phone to her and see her head? Is she saying yes or no?
Is she right there?
No, she's not here.
Okay.
That's how he could say that. Are you kidding?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Now, hold on. Your story is just fantastic, though, on how you bet on yourself. Gosh, what are we talking now? 5-6 years ago, you mortgaged your house in order to get a ride with Joe Gibbs Racing at the time. Was she with you during that? Because talk about stress in a marriage. Holy crap.
Well, she didn't really know. So that was great to find out when that was in the article the other day. But no, she knew. She knew in the sense of the risk that I took financially to get that opportunity. But it all paid out now, right? Like we went from, we have our house and land, we have horses, which she's always loved animals, which a lot of our animals are rescues, believe it or not. But we were in a small condo in Broadbrook, Connecticut. So it's all worked out now. And I'm sure you guys have similar stories of if you aren't willing to risk something, then it usually doesn't pay off, or you don't end up where you want to be. And I've never really been somebody that isn't willing, I'm willing to risk whatever it takes to succeed and accomplish the goals that I've always wanted to accomplish.
You're with Tony Stewart.
When you did mortgage the house, was it tough to look at your bank account because there might be a single digit, a $5 bill or $2 in that bank account?
I got to be honest with you. The couple credit cards were in debt for quite a while. And I did. There was another thing to that story. If you find the practice from Iowa, I had wore out shoes that had holes in them, and they wouldn't let me practice. So I actually, earlier in that week, I had to go buy some shoes, which I used my wife's credit card for at the time. So there's a lot more to this story than most people will probably ever know, but that's what's also made my wife and I so strong and who we are as people.
Holy smokes. Any children? Well, we went.
Don't you dare ask the kid question.
Any children?
Yeah.
Priest,
We have a lot of animals. I can tell you that. I'm not even going to start listing off all the animals, but my wife, she loves them. And, anytime she sees these rescue posts on Facebook, I keep telling her to stop following them because we keep on adding them. But that's basically like our kids.
Well, the reason I asked that is because your boss, Tony Stewart, on this show a couple of times has said, if and when he and Leah Pruitt decide to have a baby, he is not going to be in the delivery room and cut the umbilical cord. Can you straighten that out with your boss and say, bro, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. You need to cut the umbilical cord?
Why is Ryan going to straighten it out with them?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not even. I'm kind of like in the same thing as him right now. I don't even know what to say.
That's
I'm
probably
Team Tony right now.
Yeah, that's probably pretty smart. And last thing, man, if you look on Berlin, Connecticut's Wikipedia page, there is a driver that's listed on there, and it's Ryan Preece as a notable person. There's not a Zipadelli on there, and that dude's won multiple freaking Cup championships.
Yeah.
Why don't you go in there and puff your chest up in front of Zipadelli and say, look at this wiki page, bro. I'm on and you're not.
I might just go add him on there. I think that's what you can do, right? You can get on Wikipedia and add people or do things like that. But it's I love my hometown. I've always enjoyed the people, the restaurants, and it's a small I mean, everything. Connecticut's pretty small, but it's just a small town, so everybody knows everyone. And that's another thing. When I've won some of these races, they hang banners. They're proud of it. So hopefully this year we can try to hang some banners on the bridge across from Tavern on the Tracks. That's my go-to restaurant in Berlin.
Oh.
Well, did you donate your shoes with holes in them to that tavern?
No, they're somewhere, I'm sure. Somewhere. Yeah. I don't even know where they are.
Awesome.
You autograph those, you can raise money for any animal charity you want and make a pretty good amount. That's a huge thing. Yeah.
Well, buddy, this is fantastic, man. Again, your boss, Tony Stewart's become the Freak Nation for probably part of this 22 years from the beginning. And when you have three crap starters, including Tony Stewart, we get a lot of things done. And we appreciate what he's done for us and the fact that you're part of that team. It's badass, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. And I know Irish would appreciate your hat right now. So I don't know if you know Irish Saunders, but he's been somebody that's really that Tony knows well, but he's been somebody that's supported me a lot in my racing career as well.
That's badass. Good to hear it. Ryan, thanks for doing this, bud.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
More.
Good luck, man.
Thank you.
Please hang up and try again.
Freak Radio Network, broadcasting from the Lucas Oil Studios. Driven by General Tire. It's Speed Freaks. Motorsports Radio redefined with Kenny Sargent.
We love to party.
Crash Gladys.
What are we doing for the bachelorette party?
And Statman.
I am serious.
Here's the Freaks.
Freak Nation, this hour, a very special second hour of Speed Freaks. Jordan Anderson, Xfinity Series team owner with Myatt Snyder, and a part-time Truck Series driver. He'll be joining us this hour. You may remember his accident where he caught on fire. His truck caught on fire, and as he's headed to the wall, he's climbing out of the car. So Jordan Anderson will join us this hour. Also, great interview with Kelly Crandall. We met her for the first time. Met her for the first time after reading her work and knowing who she is for a year. And finally, we get her in the Freak Nation. She's with racer.com. Great insight to NASCAR. Great follow on Twitter. If you're a NASCAR fan, a motorsports fan, be sure to follow Kelly Crandall. She'll be joining us at 12 past the hour. You got your Stat Man Scat. Be sure you follow us on Twitter, Facebook.
Are you okay, though?
Instagram.
Both of you guys, I should ask you this.
Right.
Are either one of you guys okay that Kelly Crandall is a Steelers fan?
Yeah, because they're trash this year.
Oh. Okay.
They suck.
If you, Mr. Cowboys fan, can't stand the Steelers. Statman, Mr. Browns / Bengals fan, can't stand the Steelers. So, okay.
I'm good with that.
All right.
She's allowed. I mean, she's got skeletons in her closet.
Oh no. Oh, yeah, Freak Nation. Be sure you follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And hello to all you watching us on YouTube and Facebook Live on Worldwide Technology Raceways Facebook page. You've got MAV TV, Lucas Oil, SpeedFreaks Facebook page, and, of course, YouTube. How you guys doing, man? And you look at the 2022 motorsports season. Formula One wrapped up this weekend at Abu Dhabi, but the championship clinched. Verstappen clinched it. How many races ago, Stat? 4? 5?
17 or 18, wasn't it? Last March or May, somewhere around there.
Yeah, he clinched 2022 at the end of 2021.
Yeah, I mean, the way they gave him 2021, he might well have clinched the next 2 or 3.
And before you know it, that second weekend of January, we'll be into the 2023 Supercross season.
And Chili Bowl. They both start that weekend. That's
no.
insane. Yeah.
Do they?
I believe.
The car is in there somewhere.
Oh,
too.
yeah. NASCAR Rally.
Yeah, before you know it, man, we'll be right back into 2023. And again, if you're covering NASCAR, or IndyCar, or NHRA, those seasons begin and end at certain times. But damn it, if you're covering all motorsports, it starts the first week of January and then ends damn near the last weekend of November for us.
December's not a month off either. We do have the PRI show, which will provide a slew of interviews and driver announcements and sponsor announcements. And yeah, so.
And the very few things beat Anaheim 1.
Yeah.
Supercross.
Yep.
I mean, that was more than welcome. That was a crazy weekend. I loved Anaheim 1.
That's a great point because we're, again, cooped up for a few weeks and then bam, you blow it out with Anaheim 1 with a sold out stadium and with the production that Feld Motorsports provides for Supercross. That's right, Stat. It's a great feeling to have. Like the first motorsports event that I'm going to have is going to be Supercross. And we were up there with the VIPs where who knows who we're going to see up there in the VIP area.
Yeah. And also I remember being up there when they had that New England Patriots and who was it? The Raiders. That what was that penalty that wasn't called
on Brady?
On Brady, yeah,
that's right. We were up there for that. That's true. There's always either an NFC or AFC championship game or something going on that Saturday night.
Well, that's Anaheim 2 usually the championship games.
And Brian Herta paying off his bet, showing his bald head to the stat man. Yeah. I mean, those were always good. Those were always good weekends.
The Tuck rule. The Tuck rule. That's what you're thinking of.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Freak Nation, coming up. Kelly Crandall with Racer.com. She'll be joining us here in the Freak Nation. Also, Jordan Anderson, Xfinity Series team owner and part-time NASCAR Truck Series driver. He'll be joining us here in the Freak Nation. But we're going to bring in another round of affiliates and get right back at it for this big, fat radio show on YouTube and Facebook.
Speed Freaks, we promise to suck less. Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
The Freaks.
Welcoming in Sports Map Radio Network for the second hour. How you doing, buddies? Thrasher, that man, Kenny Sargent, Suave. We haven't talked about Suave. Suave taking 4 or 5 days off. I thought it was because he's camping out in different regions of the country trying to get Swifty tickets.
He's trying to get the Rams' terrible season squared away in his mind. He had other things planned for the Rams season.
True.
The year.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and hello to you guys watching us on YouTube, Facebook Live on many pages, and of course on Twitch.
And he's also vibing and dancing to the rain.
Well, he is in Las Vegas, by the way. He caught a Phoenix Coyotes Knights game.
Arizona Coyotes.
What did I say?
Phoenix.
Wow. Arizona
changed the name a
Suns.
long time ago.
Phoenix Cardinals.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I did teach him how to play craps, and he knows to roll up the table and just go 6-8-9, 6-8-9.
You tried to teach me too. That didn't go well.
Until your freaking rent money was taken away in about a matter of 13 seconds.
Exactly. That man reached over there and said, "Give me that."
Yeah. And you could win a lot of money fast, but like stats, you could lose a lot of money quicker.
It comes and goes pretty quick.
Oh, it sure does. Whoa. Crash, you ever tried to play craps?
Yes, with you, and I still couldn't grasp it. I like watching when it's a fun hot table, but yeah, forget it.
It is. Losing in anything sucks. Yes. But losing in craps is double suck. But winning is triple awesome badassery. Yeah, okay. It's greatness.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not advocating gambling, although I do gamble. I don't know what that means. All right. We're going to get right back at it with Kelly Crandall from racer.com. Coming up next here in the Freak Nation.
Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
It's more than just a slogan. General Tire delivers for whatever you do. General Tire's Grabber X3 mud terrain tire offers aggressive styling and is engineered for durability with innovative performance features that are ready to carry you through extreme mud, dirt, and rock-covered terrain. For extreme traction that's ready for anything and rugged styling to match, look no further than the Grabber X3. General Tire delivers for whatever you do. Check out GeneralTire.com today. General Tire, aggressively styling the Speed Freaks since 2001.
Lucas Oil, it works.
I run Lucas Oil.
It doesn't matter if you're on the water,
Driving to work,
or competing in a sold-out stadium.
Lucas Oil products will help you get the most out of your vehicle.
Monster Jam has run Lucas Oil in and on our trucks for over 10 years.
we wouldn't run anything else.
Lucas Oil, the official oil of Monster Jam.
Back in the day, you guys did everything you could with what you had.
Yeah.
So we thought it would be more fun to take everything we have today and put everything you had over top of it.
How about that? Wow.
MAV TV presents Legacy of Speed. This is the story of the cars, the men who built them, and the men who raced them. This is their legacy of speed on MAV TV, Motorsports Network.
Lucas Oil Studios, 22 years of doing this thing, and when we hit January 1st, that man, I think we should say 23 years of doing Speed Freaks.
Without question. Once you get halfway, you round it up.
Lucas Oil has been with us for damn near all of those 22 and a half years. Go to lucasoil.com. That's lucasoil.com to find the right products for your righteous ride. Keep your car fat and happy, or your cars, your boat, whatever you got with an engine, man, Lucas Oil has a product to keep your rides fat and happy. Now, as I was saying earlier, Kelly Crandall joining us here in the Freak Nation with Racer and Racer.com. Her first time in the Freak Nation, and it's tough for me to recognize Kelly Crandall if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook Live. If you're listening to it on one of the many affiliates, sorry about that. Usually we see Kelly Crandall with headphones on. Crandall, you look great without headphones on this time.
Man, all it takes is headphones, and that's an easy disguise, huh? I didn't even have to try that hard. Yeah, that, as I told you before, that's what keeps me out of trouble. You just put the headphones on and you tune everybody out. So that's my magic power.
Yeah, that's a great point. Kelly Crandall, of course, who covers NASCAR and then dabs in some other motorsports for Racer.com, joining us here in the Freak Nation. When you walk by her in the media room, she's got these headphones on. Again, she doesn't want to hear all the bull going on around her, so she keeps her mouth shut. So there's a little bit of too much information, right?
Sometimes. I'm human. I get sucked into it too, but I'm learning. Just keep the headphones on at all times, and yeah, you can avoid all of that.
Kelly Crandall is a great follow on Twitter for your NASCAR insight. And looking back at the 2022 season, it seems like we've got more than a handful of highlights, Kelly Crandall. And again, it seems like half of those came from Phoenix. But looking at what happened for the 2022 season and all the firsts for NASCAR, what's the one or maybe two things that stand out for you that NASCAR either accomplished or got wrong throughout the season?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, it's a long list. I feel like this was a season where the headlines were endless, right? And whether it was talk around the car, whether it was talk around first wins, what the car was doing, injuries, new racetracks, parity, the list goes on and on. So I think what they got right was start with the car. I think the car did a tremendous job on intermediate racetracks, which is what they were going for, because there's been so many complaints over the years about 1.5 miles and dirty air and not a lot of action. So I felt like the car did a really good job on intermediates of spicing it up a little bit. But what they got wrong was they somehow managed to make a car that is like a sports car, but didn't perform well on sports car type racetrack, which would be road courses. So they got that wrong. If you want to go a little bit deeper, I think what they got wrong was maybe just the communication with its teams. We heard as the season wound down of just drivers being unhappy with what they viewed was the lack of communication. But then you also have Jeff Burton, who fired back and said the communication was there. Some drivers didn't pay attention. So like I said, the headlines were endless. I think in a broader sense, again, to your question, talking about what they got right, I think overall they got this car right. I really, really do. I think there's a lot good about this race car that maybe got overshadowed because we had the injuries that we had to deal with, and again, the bad racing on road courses, the bad racing on short tracks. But I think by and large, NASCAR can look at this year and say they got a lot of things right because, again, you had first-time winners. You had a lot more parity in the top 10. You had a lot of different drivers and different teams coming to the top of the leaderboard. So to me, I feel like this car was the highlight for NASCAR. It was the thing that they got right.
Kelly, I think it's interesting how you say the bad racing on road courses. And yeah, I would agree with you on that. But the flip side view of it is that I've never had more non-NASCAR fans talk to me about NASCAR races than they did after Indianapolis or Road America. So in a sense, what's bad for us is good for the non-fan?
Well, I think what ended up happening is that, like a lot of races, and Martinsville too, if you want to talk about short tracks, is we all have very short memories because we watch these races or we cover these races and the first 490 miles are terrible, right? And then something happens in that last little bit, whether it's at Road America and it's Tyler Reddick winning his first race, or it's Indianapolis and the craziness that happened there with turn one being an absolute disaster of a corner for all of the carnage, right? Or even go to Phoenix, right? And Ross Chastain getting into Chase Elliott, or Martinsville, Ross Chastain and his video game move. I think by and large, if you look back at all of those races, there's nothing memorable about those races except for one incident that suddenly everybody remembers and say, like, remember Indy? Remember Martinsville? And it's like, no, I don't, because those races sucked. But it was one moment that stands out that gets everybody's attention, or it goes viral on social media. And then to your point, you have all of these people, whether it's NASCAR fans or others, that just see a 10-second highlight and can't believe what happened. So listen, I think NASCAR will take it, right? They'll take any attention no matter how it comes. But it's that first, like I said, 490 miles that everybody wants to forget.
So true. I know that Statman wants to get back to some more NASCAR and next gen car talk with you, but I want to do kind of an overall motorsports question with you. Who do you think got it right more over this last season? Did NHRA do more right? Did NASCAR do more right? Did IndyCar do more right? Did sports cars do more? Who do you think had an overall most successful season this past year?
So to be fair, I mean, that's hard for me to answer because I'm not as well-versed or really, I I don't really dig into other series as much as I do NASCAR or even NHRA now. I think again, if you were to break it down, NASCAR got it right because their ratings are either staying the same, or I think actually they grew the Fox portion. I don't know about NBC, but the Fox portion, their ratings increased, I think, by 4%, right? And we talked about the car. NHRA is doing, I feel like, a fantastic job of capitalizing on whether it's Tony Stewart coming in or all the work and everything Toyota has done to put their drivers out there. They've had fantastic championship battles the last couple of years they've been able to capitalize on. So I feel like they're on an upward trajectory. But as far as other motorsports, it wouldn't be fair for me to say, because like I said, I don't live in that world. I think, listening to a Connor Daly talk about IndyCar, I mean, IndyCar, I feel like has a lot going for them. I feel like they're exciting. They've got a lot of great personality. I watch IndyCar races, but to hear someone like a Connor Daly talk about why can't we get ratings, that's confusing to me, because I feel like, as I just said, they've got a lot going for them as well. Formula One, I mean, that's just above my pay grade. I think the Netflix series, as everybody will tell you, has certainly helped when it comes to the U.S. audience, and look at everything they're now doing with COTA and Las Vegas and Miami. But I don't know if I could really say who's done it the best or who had the best year. I think you really, to be fair, have to kind of break it up into their own little sections of what they were trying to accomplish, or what their fan base is, and their individual ratings and so on, and see, okay, compare it to themselves from years past.
Kelly Crandall is one of the great reads in motorsports. Racer Magazine, Racer.com. You mentioned bad racing. What's bad racing? And can that be solved by making the races shorter?
Oh, well, I'm all for shorter races. I think when it comes to NASCAR, there should maybe be only a handful of 500-mile races, right? You look at Daytona 500, that's a staple. The Southern 500, the Coke 600, of course, is 600 miles. So I think you can pick out a handful of races that should stay 500 miles. But if it was up to me, I always say, if I'm fantasy booking the NASCAR schedule, I'm chopping it almost in half. I don't think that a lot of these races that have two races should have two races. And I think you cut 100 or so miles off of a lot of them. So, which is easy for me to say, right? It's easy for me to spend other people's monies and take their contracts away. So yes, I would cut the races. I think that would help. Bad racing. So that is in the eye of the beholder, right? Everybody has a different opinion of what bad racing is. To me, it has nothing to do with if there's crashes or controversy. To me, bad racing is just watching cars, if we're talking about NASCAR, just literally go in circles and do nothing, right? There's no passing. There's no tire fall off. There's no comers and goers, as we say, of drivers at the front that go to the like. That to me is bad racing. If I can see that a Denny Hamlin or a Kyle Larson or somebody has a really fast race car and they can't drive through the field, that's a problem. If there's no tire fall off to where you're literally just running as hard as you can until the next pit stop and you're going to throw some more tires on it and do it all again, and nobody has to manage their equipment, that bugs me as well. I think that's terrible racing. So there's a few different variables there, but to me, it all comes down to action. Is there action throughout the field? Again, there doesn't have to be cautions and crashes and things like that, but is there passing? Is there repass? Can you repass someone? So that's what I always say is there action? Is there things happening throughout the field?
It sounds like you and I could have a spectacular conversation about that. We here in the Freak Nation, we've had that same conversation over and over and over again. I think that the cars are too easy to drive, and that the drivers just put their foot to the floor and steer. I think if they had to brake and accelerate and change gears and force guys to drive, you could separate from the the guys that are just out there whistling a happy tune, and the guys who are trying to get to the finish line first. That sounds like bad racing to me. Am I right in listening to what you're saying here?
Yeah, I think you have a point there, because one of the things I've always said and I've always respected when Carl Edwards is around, and Brad Keselowski's the same way, is that these race cars should not be easy to drive. These race cars should be hard. They should be on edge. It should come down to what the driver can do behind the wheel. I don't think next gen is easy to drive. I think my uneducated, non-technical self, I think just listening to drivers and teams, that obviously shifting came into play this year, which I think took some people by surprise, especially when it became something that drivers were doing every single weekend. And even on short tracks like Martinsville, right? I mean, go back to the spring Martinsville, that was just absolutely terrible, and it had terrible weather, and it was a night race and absolutely no tire fall off. And we got to Martinsville and everybody was shifting in practice. And literally within 5 minutes of that first practice, everybody was going, well, this is different. And from what I understood is when everybody is shifting, you're basically eliminating driver mistakes, because you could just, if you make a mistake in the corner, you just grab a gear and drive off the corner, right? You're not paying for that mistake. The guy behind you can't capitalize on that. So I think shifting came into play this year, and that kind of, again, took away some of the driver error. I think also listen, there's always going to be dirty air in racing, and aerodynamics is a word you're always going to hear in racing. Dirty air and these cars in dirty air continues to be a problem, right? So that comes into play. So I don't necessarily want to say that the cars are easy to drive, because early in the year, we heard a lot of drivers talk about how that they're now kind of on that razor's edge, where this car, if it gets away from you, it won't save you, in the sense of, with the Gen 6 car, they could get loose or they could drive it off the right rear tire, but the car would catch itself before it spun around. Well, with next gen being a symmetrical body, they can't drive it off the right rear anymore. So you don't have drivers who can go in there and drive it looser and hang that right rear out. But that also means that there's no room for error, because, again, if next gen, according to the drivers, as soon as you make a mistake and you cross that line, it's spinning out. And I think this year, I don't have the numbers, but I would be curious to go and find it to see how many drivers spun out on their own this year just because the car got away, or how many drivers got loose and went up and bounced off the wall because they couldn't catch the car. So I think there's a few variables, like I said, of what goes into it. I don't agree that I would say that the cars are easy to drive. I think the cars are harder to drive, but then there's other variables that also come into play that kind of eliminate how much the driver can do behind the wheel.
The biggest thing, Kelly Crandall, about the new car is the safety issue. And if that's the case, that's the case. But I think some of that problem is maybe the soft wall technology. We haven't talked about that much, but it's been around for more than 20 years. And I don't know what the maintenance has been on some of those walls, but maybe those soft walls aren't as soft as they used to be.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Justin Haley brought that up at Indianapolis, I think it was. And he said that one of the things that drivers, according to Haley, was that drivers were questioning about kind of the life expectancy, I guess you would say, of the safer barriers. How much and how many times do they have to be replaced, right? Think of all the tracks that are in different parts of the country that go through different weather changes, right? So does that come into play? When I checked in with NASCAR, they said that every 5 years, the foam basically gets replaced, right? Because they work with, I think it's the University of Nebraska. So they're going off of everything that they've learned with them and that technology. So the safer barriers are an interesting piece. To me, in everything I've learned this year and all the interviews that I've done and the stories that I've written, two things stood out. One is I do think this car, personally, from, again, interviews that I've done, I do think this car is safer than the last car, because this car was built, and Steve O'Donnell will tell you this, and I just did a story with Cody Ware, who said the same thing. This car was built for the catastrophic crashes. So Ryan Newman at Daytona in 2020, Joey Logano flipping over at Talladega last year and landing on his roof. Cody Ware at Texas was a catastrophic accident, right? I think the numbers were that he hit the wall at 160 miles an hour. That was a head-on impact. If you go back and look, you can see the entire front of his car was crushed, right? So this car was built with that in mind. And I think it's worked because, again, just looking at a Cody Ware and listening to him and the time that I spent with him, who knows how much worse that crash could have been in the Gen 6 car, right? And you look at NASCAR gave me the numbers and said that Cody Ware's crash was the largest frontal impact they have recorded since they started keeping a crash database in 2011, right? And he walked away with just an ankle injury, no concussion, no other broken bone. Like he, lost his breath, obviously, because when you have an impact like that, you're going to lose your breath. But for him to just have to recover from an impaction fracture and some torn ligaments in a crash like that, I think shows a catastrophic crash that car was built for. The problem is they've built such a stiff race car because they built the cockpit and the center section, the center clip of this race car so well and so strong in trying to prepare for those catastrophic accidents and not having something come and puncture the cockpit. Well, when you do that, when these drivers have other impacts, particularly the rear end impacts that we saw, when you have impacts like that, the energy is going to go to the weakest link, so to speak. And the weakest link is the driver's body. So I think, again, NASCAR has learned, okay, we did one thing right, but the flip side of that, the unintended consequence was we built such a stiff race car that drivers are taking impacts and feeling things more than they have in the past. So that certainly has to be corrected. And I think there was a misconception that NASCAR wasn't doing anything throughout the year, and they certainly were. I think maybe could they have done it a little faster? Could they have communicated that more? Who knows? But they're certainly working on it, and I think it'll be better in 2023, or at least I'm hopeful. So.
Kelly Crandall, again, racer.com, joining us here in the Freak Nation, covers NASCAR for Racer. And let's end it with this, because it was a heck of an ending for the NASCAR Cup and Xfinity season. I've never in my life, I've thought about this since then, if has anything occurred such as this, where a person, male, female, reaches the pinnacle of their sport or their business, and all of a sudden, bam, tragedy hits. And of course, we're talking about Ty Gibbs. And it was palpable on Sunday. We all felt it, that it was like, okay, we've got to go through this race. We see it. But has anything come out of that weekend outside of Ty Gibbs? Again, they're retiring the 18 for now, putting him in the 54 in the Cup Series. But from your point of view, has anything else come out of that weekend in Phoenix that maybe we didn't see or hear, that good, bad, or indifferent?
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I went into Sunday, and just touching on Ty Gibbs and Coy Gibbs for a second. And the reason I'm glad you brought that up is because I'm glad that it wasn't just me, that it really changed. I won't say ruined, because that's not the right word, but it changed Sunday, right? I mean, like you said, it was like, okay, we still have to cover a race. But for me, I went into Sunday kind of like Christopher Bell, like all hyped up. We made it to the end of the year. This is going to be a great championship battle. And then you hear that news, and I just didn't care the rest of the day. And I wonder if, like you, that I did miss something, because I got to be honest with you, I kind of just wanted to go home. And I'm never like that at the racetrack, but it was such a change of emotion and perspective, and trying to cover a race after such an unexpected news story. So it's funny again that you say that, because I've kind of been sitting here the last 2 weeks wondering that myself, is what else was there about Phoenix that maybe got overshadowed a little bit? You mentioned Kyle Busch, and I think there probably would have been more on Kyle in his final race at Joe Gibbs Racing if, again, there wasn't the news of Coy, right? Because at that point, it just becomes about Coy and how everybody at Joe Gibbs Racing is feeling. So I wonder if that was a story. Other than that, I don't know. I feel like Joey and the 22 team, I feel like they got their due. I feel like they got their attention, but yeah, that definitely changed things. I think that definitely changed the narrative a little bit. And like I said, just speaking for myself, I just wanted to go home, and I don't know if I did my best work that day, to be honest with you. It took me a few days to kind of shake out of that. And it's not because I knew Coy personally or anything. Obviously I knew him from covering the sport, and I think it was just because literally, 6 to 8 hours before, we all sat in that media center and listened to him talk about his son win the Xfinity Series championship. And then it's just so unexpected. So I don't know if I actually answered your question there, because that kind of sent me off on like I said, that really has thrown me these last couple of weeks. It really, really, really threw me.
Well, it's just that we're crushing Ty for a week.
The range of emotions.
Yeah, I mean, think about Ty Gibbs, right? I mean, the kid, and let's be, I mean, he's a kid. I mean, he's 20 years old. He's an adult, but let's be honest. In the grand scheme, he's a kid, right? He's still, I think we can all admit, he still has a long way to go in terms of his maturation and professionalism and so on and so forth. But he goes from a week of just hearing about it from everybody, right? From the fans, social media, fellow drivers, Hall of Fame drivers, like Dale Earnhardt Jr. is asked about it because he's racing his 3 drivers for the Xfinity Series champion. So you go through all of that, you win the championship, and just, look at his celebration. I think that was truly a pure, genuine celebration for Ty. I think it was a weight off of his shoulders to accomplish that. And I know that it was really important to him. I'm sure, look, you guys were there. You heard him say in his press conference, it was very important for him to go out and have a clean race and a good race. And I look back at all of those highlights and those pictures of how happy he was and all the pictures with his team and Toyota and his family. And then, I mean, like I said, it hits you because I'm the type of person that I start imagining, like, my gosh, what was it like for him to get that news, and who had to tell him that news? And my mind starts to spiral. And so yeah, it's not about me at all, but I'm just saying it certainly, I don't know about anybody else, but it certainly threw me for a loop. And yeah, so maybe I need to sit here and get back on track and say, okay, what did we miss from Phoenix?
Yeah.
No, it's all of us. Our show that night was nothing but, oh my God, this kid just got his world ripped out from underneath him, and it's just not fair. It doesn't matter who you are, it's not fair. But who was the man always in his ear that entire week of us hammering him in the media and from other drivers? His dad. His dad was helping him through all that. His dad just helped him through one of the worst weeks of his life, and then it culminated with one of the best moments of his life, and then it's gone, and it's just not fair. It's shocking.
It's not. One of the things that I thought about I think it was Sunday, it might've been Monday, but I said, everything, it's so cliche, but everything truly happens for a reason. Right. And I think, Ty getting to make Cup Series starts this year, and his family getting to see him do that, and the success he had in the Xfinity Series and winning that Xfinity Series championship, when, let's be honest, I don't think anybody wanted to see him win that championship other than maybe Ty Gibbs and Joe Gibbs Racing fans. Right. So I just feel like, everything happens for a reason. And it took me back to 2011 when Dan Weldon won the Indy 500. And I was like, man, I didn't want him to win that race. I wanted to see the rookie, the J.R. Hildebrand off turn 4. Like, come on, right? And then when Dan passed, when we lost Dan at the end of the year, I was like, you know what? Everything happens for a reason. So that's what I've told myself with Ty is, you know what? He got to live the highs of, like I said, the Cup starts and all of his success in the Xfinity Series this year with his dad and his family. But it's just so unexpected and so sad.
Kenny, you brought up that same comparison.
Yes.
2011, Dan Weldon.
It's a given.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I want to go home. I just want to go home. It's just go home and hug my daughter.
And the whole happens for a reason thing. Yep. Kelly's a freak. See, that just proves she's a freak like us.
Kelly Crandall, a great follow on Twitter, even better read at racer.com with your NASCAR insight. Thank you.
Thank you enormously. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Kelly Crandall, again, racer.com, a great follow on Twitter for all of your NASCAR insight. Coming up in about 8 or 9 minutes, Jordan Anderson. Speaking of issues at the track, team owner and part-time Truck Series driver, Jordan Anderson. Remember the fiery accident with him in the truck? We'll talk to him about that and more. But first, Statman Scat.
I've been doing this a long time, more than 23 years in SpeedFreaks and more than 50 years in motorsports in general. Lost a lot of people in that time, friends, people I've admired, people I looked up to. But losing Ken Block this week is something that's going to hit me or has hit me a little differently. He checked a lot of boxes. To show you how important he was in the World Rally Championship, where he raced a couple of years, they're going to retire his 43 number for this season, for the 2023 season. That's how much people looked up to him. He changed the paradigm in motorsports, and you can't ask for anything different than that when you change the world that you moved in. But Ken was bigger than that. We once had a conversation about family and daughters and so forth. He told me that when he looked in the mirror, he saw more than the businessman. He saw more than the husband, and he saw all of it. And a lot of people in motorsports can't say that. They're drivers, they're promoters. They don't make room for family. And Ken, that wasn't Ken Block. Ken Block made room for family, and maybe that was his success in the bigger picture. We're going to miss Ken. I'm going to miss picking up the phone and calling him and talking to him. I'm going to miss the fact that he's out there changing the sport that I'm involved in. Miss you, partner. Peace.
You're listening to Speed Freaks Motorsports Radio Redefined.
Jordan Anderson joining us here in the Freak Nation, and it's good to have Jordan Anderson in the Freak Nation. We'll get to the fire and the significance of what happens, of course, in a minute. But I want to. This might be a little inside baseball, but Jordan was saying, bro, can you get a golf cart? We'll try to walk. He thought it'd be outside the stadium. No, we're about 75 yards from where he was. What'd you say? It's like Austin Powers?
Austin Powers. So we literally drove all the way down, came back, and we ended up 10 feet from where it started. So we just got to I'm sitting in the golf cart. I'm like, man, where is he taking me? I know there's a tunnel on the backstretch. And he's like, oh, yeah, we're going right there. So that's our day. That's our moment for today. We got that checked off.
That's awesome.
Greatness.
I kind of wondered that because we're real close to the garage area where you guys are. And I thought, okay, wow, he's really not doing well. I had to check on your accounts. I'm like, he looked like he's doing better.
I think the last time I was out here with Kazo, we were outside over in 3 and 4 at the stage. And I'm like, yeah, we're just going to go to the stage out there and hang out. Maybe y'all got it set up out there. I didn't think that you were literally like you said, 10 yards that way. So we went for a scenic tour. So no problem there. We got a little ride.
Well, regardless, Jordan Anderson is here in the Freak Nation, golf cart and all. And you showed me pictures of you just 2 weeks ago. Looking at you now, it looks like you might have just been out in the Phoenix sun a little too long. How have you healed that fast from those burns?
Yeah, it's something crazy. I've been racing since I was 7. And you ask any racer out there, what's your biggest fear? Typically fire is right there at it. And, us NASCAR guys are a little probably different than, the drag racers, I mean, they're so used to fire and they're around all that stuff. I mean, it's insane. But that was really, I'd blown motors and had some fire and stuff like that. But you look at where I'm at now, I mean, it's pretty amazing. A lot of answer prayers, and had some good doctors at UAE and Wake Forest that took care of us, all the NASCAR guys. And yeah, looking at that before picture from about 2 weeks ago and seeing where I'm at now, it's pretty amazing how well everything's healed up. So the body's a great thing, a lot of answer prayers. And a lot of good hands. My wife was stepping foot taking care of me that whole process, and that was kind of the 6-month mark of our marriage. I'm sure that's not how she had planned to spend that part of it, but the question that kept popping up was, is he gonna look all right for our honeymoon this December when we go on it? So I think I'm back where I'm at least normal looking for the most part. Still got a couple things on my arm and my neck that are healing up, but all things considered, looking back on the video and what happened, just grateful to be here and glad everything's healing up. And I know that everything, looking back on the crash, did its job to keep me safe. So just glad to be here today that we can smile and talk about it.
Yeah, seriously, looking at your face, there's so much energy in your eyes. I mean, yeah, this is kind of a renewed vigor for you. Like, hey, we got this, no problem. But talk about that fire, because you had a skirt off of your helmet. Was there something that wasn't quite tucked in right? Or I don't understand how your face got some burn.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of the crazy things looking back on it is the lap before going down the backstretch. I think I had gotten some in my eye, so I didn't shut my shield all the way.
Oh, wow.
And the skirt was basically a front skirt here, so I think some of it came up on the sides. So, looking at that and some of the stuff on my arm, I mean, it just got so hot in there that the suit, nothing burned through it, just that the radiant heat was just that hot. So kind of combination between that, the shield being up, probably didn't help any of that. So,
but that's just timing. That's unlucky timing.
It is. So the crazy thing was, it was a oil line got hit. They got a hole in it, basically emptied out the oil tank on the headers. And that's why the fire was just so hot and so big and came inside the truck there. But, it was one of those things where as a driver, you don't ever think about escape plans. You're just always trying to be aware of your car, your surroundings, what's going on. And as it got hot in there, I was like, I got to get out of here. Anything can't be worse than sitting here inside this truck. And that's when I threw the window net down and I popped out once and I'm like, no, I'm still on the track. So I went back in and then I kind of saw the wall. And I'm like, if I can time it right to hit the wall and be on my way out, at least I won't be going too fast there. So it was pretty surreal. And then looking back, we got the truck back from NASCAR. They took it back to the R&D center and looked over everything. And they came to the conclusion, everything did its job that was supposed to. And but looking at the truck and seeing the burns and everything, it's pretty nuts. From Impact here today, like I'm an Impact guy for the rest of my life. Like if there was ever any doubt about it, I will be for the rest of my life now because everything did its job. But just a lot of answer prayers that a second or two earlier it could have been a different story of what we're talking about here today. But just definitely not the way I want to make the highlight reel, but just glad that I can sit here and we can talk about it.
Yes. Jordan Anderson joining us here in the FreakNation. And in case you missed it, we'll show you the video of his accident during this interview on YouTube and Facebook Live, where during the truck race, Jordan Anderson is in the truck, driving the truck. And one of the things that caught me by surprise was you're trying to get out of this truck as it's still moving, and here comes a wall.
Well, he said he purposely did that.
I know. I understand all that. When you see that happen, it's like, okay, I would rather have my hand or arm smashed by the wall and get a little bit burned, or have my freaking body burned, and then I'll get out once I stop.
Yeah, it's probably a testament to how strong adrenaline is. Oof. You ask any racer, adrenaline that's been in a crash or something, it just is off the wall even after a race. I mean, you get out of the car and it is, yes. And when it first happened, I think I was just more mad about it because we qualified good. We qualified ninth. We were running fourth with just a few laps to go in that stage there. So we were en route to a top 5 in that first stage, and motor blew and the motor didn't blow. I thought it blew, and I shut the motor off and slowing down. And there's 32 trucks behind me when this happened. So that's when I first popped out. I realized it kind of sunk in. I'm like, no, don't, not just yet. And, as I'm getting it slowed down, I'm like, it's getting hot and it's getting really hot. And then I saw the fire start to come in, and the trucks have a NACA duct on the right side. And we basically had a hose pointed to put fresh air in the truck at me. And so it was basically sucking fire in off the right side, coming out of that hose across me and out the driver's side window. And that's why it was so hot in that area right there.
You.
Yeah. So it's basically sucking in the right side, out the left side, and it just bringing it all right by me. And that's why it got so hot and so intense so quick. So it was crazy. I knew the wall was coming, and I wish I could say that I was that athletic, that I planned it all to happen the way it did, but I just knew that I needed to get out of there. And I just counted as God's grace that the timing of everything worked out the way it did. But, a great question that you said, because it was just one of those things. I've never been in a situation where I've been around fire, had that kind of fire, and it just, whatever was on the outside of that truck couldn't have been worse than just sitting there inside of it at the time.
Do you have conversations like that? Because that brings up something like you try and anticipate all situations. Unlike, you know what, guys, if I'm on fire and there's a wall coming, should I get out before I hit? You don't have those kind of conversations, right?
No, I can't say that was going through my head. It was just, it's kind of the fight or flight survival mode you went into. It just like, I just got to get out of here. And, take it from, I've been doing this I'm 31 now. So I've been racing without showing my age too much, 21, 22 years now. And, being around it long enough and been in crashes. I mean, I think back to, I had a legend car catch on fire when I was like 13, and it was maybe going 20 miles an hour, but I rolled out of it in the infield grass. So, I mean, it was just kind of one of those things that you're around the sport enough and you come into enough things that you just are aware of things. I mean, you think back in these cars or the trucks that we ran, I had on a cool shirt. So it's plugged in. I had my helmet, it's plugged in. Then I had the blower on my helmet. So I had 3 things that were tethers technically that could have kept me on top of the seatbelt. And, as that thing's heading toward the wall, these trucks are set up that they're meant to go left. So steering wheel's off. And that's why you watch in the video, it darts to left so quick, because I got the steering wheel off. I'm unbuckled. And I'm just trying to figure out how to either sit on the side of it or climb on the roof and let it come to a stop. But it happened in such slow motion as it was going on. You watch the video and it's like going quick and it's sideways spinning out. But thinking back on it, it was almost like slow motion.
Yeah, we've always heard that. Like you brought up drag racing earlier, we've heard that about guys in their top fuel rails. It's a 3.5 second run, but it's all slow motion to them. So yeah, when you're on fire, that is slow motion because you're like, what can I do to get out of this? Let's talk about your year though. What a year. So your driver, Myatt Snyder, has a fiery crash in Daytona to kick off the year. Then you get married. Then you have a fiery crash. I mean, what else is going to happen this year?
Oh, you forgot about Martinsville crash.
Oh, and then goodness gracious. Then the fight.
I was going to say,
fight with Austin Hill.
If you call Myatt's crash fight, Myatt's was, I don't know if that was fiery. That was car meet fence and motor end up 50 yards down the track. And I go back to, it's a testament to the safe cars that our guys. Yeah. I mean, you never have crashes. You don't want to be on that side of the highlight reel, but to have one of the biggest crashes in the Xfinity Series, one of the craziest things on the Truck Series happen, and both of us are here today to talk about it, is, I've definitely given all our guys in the shop a pat on the back. They put tough race cars and safe race cars, take that little part out of the equation, because I got no doubt in my mind to go back racing again next year. I'm not fearful about it. So just very proud of our guys that they've built some safe race cars this year, and all the people that we deal with apply stuff safe.
You have no doubt in your mind. I know your wife's been around racing, but what are the conversations with her?
That was so looking back on that day, it was kind of crazy. She was supposed to be running a marathon that day in North Carolina, and it got rained out. I said, hey, why don't you hop on the race day flight with all the pit crews and come on down here to Talladega? So she was there that day, part of it. My dad was there. And John Bomry and all his guys were at Road Atlanta for the Petit Le Mans. So they actually came on down to the hospital. Everybody was down there. Her mom and dad were actually at the house when it happened. They hopped on an airplane in Charlotte to come down and meet me in the hospital. So to have everybody there meant quite a lot. And some of the discussions we had, that was she was like, how do you feel about it all? And I'm like, I want to take that truck. It's the front clip's not bent. It needs some body work on it. It melted the Bondo off of it, so it needs some mud work. But it would be pretty cool to take that truck back to Daytona next year and have maybe a redemption tour to come back at it.
That idea.
I think we might make a go at it. But it's tough. When I sat at home for 3 weeks after it, the mind is a crazy thing. You can either go down a path of, can't believe this happened. This is terrible. And I just kind of was like talking with her about it. I'm like, this is a part of my testimony. I'm still here. I mean, God's not done with me yet. And, how do we make something good come out of this? And it kind of tried to be that half glass full through that whole scenario. And for her and I, she's a counselor. That's her full-time job. And I said, so, thinking about this, and as tough and as painful as that burn process was, I said, this has kind of put lit something in me to maybe go to some of these burn hospitals and see some of these kids and stuff that have fought through some of this stuff. Because it's hard you always figure, how can you relate to people that are going through a tough time in life? And I'm like, here I am, I've gone through this, I've lived through this. How can we kind of help live back? And so that's kind of one thing she wants to help me work on next year is, to kind of be able to give back a little bit through some of this stuff. So it's trying to keep a positive attitude through all this stuff and find some good in it. And I think the biggest thing for me, I was so humble because you work so hard your whole life. You want to be respected by people. You want people to like what you're doing. And the amount of people that reached out and, either a text or a phone call or came by the house through all this stuff, I was humbling is probably one of the words that comes to mind, because there are people that in the garage I don't even think like me that were sending me a text message like, hey man, hope you're getting better. If there's anything I can do for you. So I think it speaks volumes about the NASCAR community, how tight we are. And we may, go nose to tail and race each other as hard as we can every week, but in the day, you don't ever want to see anybody go through a tough time. So that was pretty cool and pretty humbling to see how many people reached out and, just reached out to see if there's anything they could do to help. So that was pretty cool.
Do you have a charity right now?
I don't.
There you go.
So
Burn victims.
You just never know.
His race team.
Burn victims.
He's raising money for his race team.
Right.
Tires,
Well, okay, there is that. Oh, that charity.
Buddy, thanks for doing this.
Yep. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
All right, Freak Nation, we're going to wrap this bad boy up. You missed any of the show, go to speedfreaks.tv. That's the website, Freak Nation. A crap ton of video, audio for you to watch, to listen to. You missed any show, any part of this show, any shows of the last decade, we'll have it up there for you. Go to speedfreaks.tv. That's speedfreaks.tv. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and of course on Twitter.
How much is a crap ton?
Very good question.
What side of the Mississippi are you on, Stat?
I'm on the south side of Mississippi.
Okay, you're in the Bay.
Bay, yeah, right.
All right, you're a big fin Cadillac. That's a big fin Cadillac. That's a crap ton. All right.
All right.
Crap ton west of the Mississippi. That's a 2005 Prius. All right.
Oh, didn't expect that.
I didn't either, Crash. I expected him to go to Skyline or Corvette mid-engine or something.
Oh, the fact that Skyline came out of your mouth, that is awesome.
Hey, we had one on Wilshire Boulevard at midnight one night. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, we've had a lot of things on Wilshire Boulevard coming out of that studio. Oh, we had to be quarantined a few times coming out of that studio. All right, Freak Nation. Right. Thank you guys for being a part of this. Have a very, very happy Thanksgiving week.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk to you again coming up, in December with a live show. Shoot the juice to the moose and Statman.
Cut it loose.
Yep.